Hello everyone, this is chapter 15 part 4. This part is very exciting. Okay, in this part we will talk about monopolies and economic efficiency. So let's remember the economic efficiency rules. A perfectly competitive company, we said, both allocatively efficient and productively efficient. So allocative efficiency implied allocative efficiency in plain English was, producing what people want, but really it was about equalizing marginal benefit to society to the marginal cost producing it. So we totally achieved that in perfectly competitive company, because when we actually looked at when we were maximizing our profits, we picked the level of output such that price was equal to price. Remember, price, marginal revenue, demand, average revenue are all equal to each other, right? Price was equal to marginal cost. Okay. It was also a perfectly competitive company. Also is productively efficient, because in the long run, its long run equilibrium happens at the zero economic profit point, and remember that was the lowest point of the average total cost curve. So by producing at the lowest cost, a perfectly competitive company achieves productive efficiency. Let's take a look at the monopolist case. Oh no, a monopolist actually achieves neither allocative efficiency nor productive efficiency. Why? Because even though a monopolist does marginal revenue equals marginal cost, right? Marginal revenue is actually less than the price. So price, or this is the marginal benefit to society, exceeds the marginal cost. So it's almost like people are paying more than what it's costing. No, yikes. Productive efficiency is not achieved because monopolist has no aim of producing at the lowest point of its average total cost curve in the long run. Okay, so let me give you an amazing example in which a perfectly competitive market for, let's say, wheat falls in the hands of a monopolist. So this Dr. Evil, okay, I just made it up. Dr. Evil goes and buys all the wheat farms, all the land that's suitable for wheat production, and combines them all and becomes the only wheat producer in the US. So here's the initial situation when the wheat was a perfectly competitive industry. So quantity here is quantity of wheat produced. It's probably tons of wheat. It's measured in tons of wheat. Okay, so supply would intersect demand in a perfectly competitive industry would give us quantity, equilibrium quantity of wheat produced. I put C for competition. Okay, perfect competition. And here's the equilibrium price in this industry. Remember, consumer surplus is the area above the market price below the demand curve limited by quantity exchanged, and producer surplus area above supply curve below market price limited by quantity exchanged. First welfare theorem says that when the market, free market works, price and quantity, we reach at equilibrium price and quantity such that it maximizes this economic surplus. Now it's becoming a monopolist. When it becomes a monopolist, look, the supply curve, market supply curve, this is like the supply of all individual companies. Now it's going to be just one company's marginal cost curve. Okay, the second difference is very interesting. Look at this demand curve. This is the market demand curve, right? For the perfectly competitive company, it doesn't change. However, now we have a peekaboo new marginal revenue curve that showed up. Okay, so here I kept the original perfectly competitive quantity and prices here. Let's see what the monopolist is gonna do. This is what the monopolist will do. Monopolist will produce such that marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Here's the output level. So monopolist is producing less than a perfectly competitive industry. Okay, let's see how much this monopolist will charge. Go hit the demand curve. This is the price monopolist will charge. So monopolist produces less and charges more. Okay, so if you look at the consumer surplus, this actually shows the consumer surplus. Let's clean it up just a little bit. Okay, consumer surplus. What was the formula for consumer surplus? Area below demand curve, above the market price. Now this is the price monopolist is charging. That's the new market price, limited by quantity exchange. Monopolist also limited the quantity to this level. What is the producer surplus? Look at the definition. Producer surplus is the area above supply curve, which is the marginal cost curve of the monopolist, below the market price limited by the quantity exchange. There you go. This trapezoid is going to be the producer surplus. What is this area? This area will be your dead weight loss. Okay, if you don't remember these, you better go back to chapter 4. So when an industry becomes monopolistic from a perfectly competitive industry, or when a perfectly competitive industry falls in the hands of a monopolist increases the price, produces less. Look at that. And as a result, consumer surplus decreases, producer surplus increases, deadweight loss is created, and overall economic surplus goes down. And this concludes our part.